right, all right, all right, all right. Welcome, happy.
Is it started?
It started. I know it throws you off every time.
I know.
It is live. Happy New Year.
We're back.
We are back. We took a couple week hiatus here.
Yeah.
But we're here. We're getting the new year, and we've got a very fun.
This is
very, very fun. Our first celebrity. On the
first
show.
celebrity. Yeah, definitely. We're excited.
And so first, welcome back to Backcountry BSing. Thank you for joining us on this Friday. Today, we've got, if you Alone fans, you're in luck tonight.
Yes.
We've got Barry from season 6 of Alone. So, like always, and Andy and I will keep bringing this up. If you have any questions for Barry, please drop them in the chat.
I think this has got to be.
Here we go. People are coming in. All right.
This has got to be the best New Year kickoff guest ever.
Yeah. So let's actually let's get him on the screen here. Barry, what's up, man?
Nothing. I'm waiting for the celebrity.
No, you're the celebrity.
First, honestly, thank you a lot for doing this. We really appreciate it. Andy and I have been watching Alone for a while.
Yeah, it is the perfect time for Alone to come out too, during
lockdown.
That's true.
'Cause
everybody's watching it.
That's true. I forgot about
Very relatable. Kind of stuck in one place, not being able to go very, very far, and it's a little better food options.
It's basically just like being back in the Arctic. So I guess we should say if you're watching and you're not familiar with the premise of the show Alone, it's kind of in the title of the show.
Yes.
But because we know
season 4.
Yeah, season 4. Yeah, season 4, the buddies won. Yeah, they're cheating.
They went a different route.
Yeah. Although it was interesting, and not to get right into the show, but I thought in some ways having 2 people seemed like it might have been a little bit harder because you got twice as many resources you need to get.
Well, let's ask the expert.
Yeah. All right. Wait, hold on. Okay. So the concept of Alone, if you're listening or watching,
is that me too?
Yes, Barry. Yes, Barry. You are officially an expert. So the concept of Alone, if you're watching the show and you're not familiar, is they generally send 8 contestants out to some sort of. Is it 10? Okay, 10. Yeah. See, 10 contestants. It's they've done 7 seasons now. They've gone to 4 different locations because they've repeated. But the context is you're out there, you get to pick 10 items, and we're going to talk about your items, sir. And literally the last to survive wins. Well, season 7 was a little bit different because they changed the price, but the last to survive wins $500,000. And there are some stipulations on why people leave, etc., stuff like that. But it really is, you go out there and you're alone.
And you're by yourself. And you have to film it all.
And so that and as people who so that is something honestly that they don't talk about whatsoever in the show, is the concept of you have to lug around all of this gear. Can you talk a little bit about that? What do they give you, and what do they tell you to do before you go out
and
there?
How much of a pain is that?
Got to be a huge one.
Yes, I can answer all those questions. So, you're given about 60 pounds of additional gear.
Oh my god, that's how 60 pounds of camera gear?
Yeah.
Oh my god,
60 pounds of additional gear. So, and they're all everything's crammed in these penguin, waterproof, whatever the heck they are.
Pelican cases.
Yeah.
Pelican, cases. Right. So how it happened for me when they dropped me off at my location, I remember there was a guy who got out of the helicopter, told me to take a knee. He runs around the front of the helicopter, unloads all my stuff, and then he runs back and he goes, "All your shit's over there." And then he hops back in the helicopter and takes off. So I go over there, and I didn't have a full scope. Well, first of all, I had drop shock. I was like, what? Reality caught up with the theoretical. But yeah, you have 60 pounds
Oh
of
my
gear. So I
God.
had to hunt for a place to sleep for the night. But I also then had to lug 60 pounds of gear to that location. You have to keep it protected. You have to keep it, stored and treat it like it's a baby out there. So
Yeah.
it gets a little tough. As far as surviving while filming, no, nobody ever freaking takes that into account.
Like, how do you do
Nobody.
that when you're starving?
Yeah,
Bro,
right?
like you honestly, you're an autopilot by the time you're
Yeah.
starting.
Yeah.
Like it's just a part of the thing you do. Like the camera now is just Wilson. It's always it's always there. So like, it's just a thing you do. In the beginning, that's when it's difficult. In the beginning, that's whenever you'll be going into like a long spiel and you think you have some golden nuggets coming out, and you
Yeah.
look over and it's like the SD cards ran out. And you're like, "Oh, where?" Yeah, and I remember this one time too when I tried to film myself taking a bath. Didn't get any of it. Ran back in my shelter. I was freezing, and you could see the steam coming off me. And I realized I didn't have my camera on through any of it, and it was just like, oh Jesus Christ. So yeah, filming while surviving, it's ridiculous because what a lot of folks understand that we have an obligation to the show first and foremost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Filming comes first. Our survival is kind of like second to first, So
Do they tell you that? Are they like, Barry, you will die if you have to get that shot? I mean, do they tell you that going out there?
No. They don't want you to put yourself in any danger. They don't want that at all because they want you out there for the full length of the show that way you can get a lot of great footage,
Right.
Yeah.
So what they tell you though is that if it didn't happen, if you didn't get it on film or camera, then it didn't happen at all. Don't talk to us about it. Don't tell us how great it was.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
so they're like, don't tell us these stories. Show us the story. And it's really important. I think on average, if you're out there, like as long as I was a little over 5,000 hours of actual. So you're filming all the time, man. Like all the time. Everything's always going at some point or another.
Is there
Hard.
Is there something that happened that like stood out to you that you just didn't get on film whatsoever?
Oh, sure, lots of things. Like so like I had a raven that was at my site, and I named him Odin, and he visited me every single day. He would come out to the berry field where I was and kind of do little dive bombs over me. And there was this one time when I was sitting there drinking water, having some berries, and there was a storm coming in, and I could see it crossing across the Great Slave. It was like the Nothing from the Never-Ending Story. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So I knew my time was limited. I had a little bit of time to enjoy this, and I had to beat feet back to my shelter and hunker down. But I remember watching the Raven. He would catch these updrifts and tuck his wings and fall and then catch himself again.
Oh wow.
Oh, so that's awesome.
That's so cool.
I kept going, that's amazing. That's amazing. And it seemed like he was responding to the congratulations. And this thing just kept doing these incredible stunts. And it was just really a personal moment there because you are alone. So whenever you have an opportunity to connect with something that is breathing and beating and you're not about to eat it, it's something different. Yeah. So yeah, it was, I wish I had caught that.
So Barry, do they give you a crash course in like how to do all this filming and recording all this?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a crash course, and like I think there's even like a grading component to it once you get to like the boot camp aspect of things, because that's when they've really narrowed it down to 25, I think is what it was, and they're going to decide who those final 12 are.
Oh wait,
So,
I didn't know that.
There's a boot camp.
Wait, there's a boot camp?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so with my season, I think we had something like close to 20,000 applicants. Okay, so that then gets whittled down to like I don't know 100, and that gets whittled down to 25. Those 25 get invited to a boot camp, and then you go there, and in essence you kind of compete. You show off your stuff. So there's like shelter building, friction fire, but to be perfectly honest, it's only about 3 days of actual dirt time. The rest of it is like they check you out physically, psychologically. They do all these other things as well. They interview you. They see how you respond. Also part of that is how well you film. Your understanding about capturing foreground, middle ground, background, and that kind of thing. Yeah, it's all done. Yeah.
So when you when you applied to like be on the show, did you have to submit anything, or like what was that?
Yeah, like what motivated you to apply for it?
That's a good question.
I mean, it's cool. It's a sweet show, but
$500,000.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Duh.
I mean, like, let's be honest. Like, I think a lot of folks give a lot of reasons, and that's one thing. But like for me, it was the money. If I wanted an experience, I live in Colorado.
Right.
I can head an
That's
hour.
true.
That's a fantastic point.
Yeah, I can have an experience. So like with that, I thought, well, this is pretty rad, you know. But at the same time, I looked at it from a place that, looking back on it now, was absolute ego. It was such Dunning Kruger. Like, I thought I knew survival. I didn't. I learned the hard way. Like, it's like there's talking about being in a fight, and then there's getting punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, until you have that experience, you're like, you can't really relate. So it was a thing that I thought I knew, but I tell you, it was something. It was pretty fantastic. You know.
What you bring up something I actually I was talking to my wife before. What? Oh,
multiple questions going on here.
Okay, well,
you go first.
Okay, my question was, like, you kind of talked about it, but what? I mean, you were out there for 69 days, right?
That's right.
What did you learn? Like, what was your biggest lesson you learned about survival?
Or one lesson.
Or one.
There's probably tons.
Yeah.
So like, okay. So okay. Oh man,
we're stumping Barry.
Okay. Jeez, were you just mad?
You had 69 days to think about this.
Well, here's the thing. For a dude who'd spent a lot of his time like in Kentucky and then in like the Rocky Mountains, the far northwest around the Great Slave Lake was definitely a foreign scenario. The learning curve was intense. If I guess I had to say the one thing about survival is hang on one more day. Every day, the day you think that's it, you can't take any more, you're starving, you're never going to make it out of this, or you're hurt. Hang on one more day. Like, don't tap, man. And I think if you could go into a survival scenario saying, I'm not going to tap, I'm going to see this thing through, I think that would be a great lesson to take away from survival. And that's the one thing I took away. I thought I had accomplished a lot in my life. I looked at a lot of things I'd done physically, like marathons and ultras and strongman and all these things. And I realized that was such a first world accomplishment. Like, I did all of those things with all of the nutrition, sleep, support, shoes. I had everything at my freaking disposal. So for me to complete those things, it's not necessarily deserving of a pat on the back, but I had a preconceived idea that because I had done hard things, I was hard enough to lean into Mother Nature the way I did and win. And it was a fool's effort, is what it was.
I think it's worth noting for people who are watching this and not familiar with the show, we should talk about why you. I mean, you didn't tap.
No,
They pulled you because of weight loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were living that one more day.
I mean, mantra. You were living that. I think that's worth noting. Like they pulled you because you lost too much weight, not because you necessarily wanted to leave. So that's interesting. I have more questions for him, but do you have?
I wanted to leave. I wanted to get the hell out of there. It was painful. Yeah. I was starving. I'd lost 82 pounds by that point. I think the longest I had gone without food was almost 3 weeks. So like it was freaking hard because I have a button I can push and just go home.
Right.
I could end it all at any moment. But like there became a point where I was too far gone. I was too feral.
Yeah.
The gradual decline of my health was also so steady that I didn't ultimately see all the potential long-term effects of me staying out there could have been.
Yeah.
So, it started out, I had this post right near my head from where I made my wiki up. It was right by my head. And what I did was I made a notch in it every night before I laid down to go to bed. but the notch was never for that day. It was never because I finished that day. It was always one day ahead.
Nice.
Oh, that's good.
Because in my mind, I had the next day already beat. And it's always that one day when a moose wanders into your territory or, something magical happens and boom, you're back in the fight.
Yeah.
So like it's a mental game that you have to be able to play, and it gets hard because you're taking a butt whooping.
Yeah.
So your body and mind naturally wants to seek comfort.
So Andy, whenever we're out, obviously doing nothing like this,
nothing even remotely close to that.
We are, let's say we're out there for like 7 days. On day 6 or 7, we start like dreaming of real food items. What
were you craving?
What were you craving when you got back, and what was the first meal you ate when you got back?
And how do you
and can you even refeed normally after that?
Yeah. No, good. Yeah, I can address all these. What I ate, refeeding. What do you got, Andy?
These are way more. I thought it'd be good to like give like an overview of what your life was prior to the show, and like
we just got right into
it. Some of the skills that you were learning, and like you talked about ultras and weightlifting and stuff, and like
answer my questions first.
Yeah,
and then we'll go to those.
Andy, hold on to that one because that's good stuff. Because I like talking about the old dude, like because he was a joke. So yeah, your question about no, I was not able to just dive back into food and start putting down bean burritos. No, man, not at all. They had to be very, very careful with me, and they had to prevent something called refeeding syndrome. Refeeding syndrome was something that killed a lot of the actual prisoners in Jewish. Auschwitz. We were feeding them, and we weren't supposed to be, and we were killing, the Jewish prisoners there. So they had to be very careful. So I remember whenever I first came out, the first thing that I was able to have, and the only thing I was able to have for a few days, was 2 cups of bone broth.
Wow.
Okay. And that was like magic because it had flavor.
Right.
It's all like, it was magic. So whenever I came home, I still had to be careful with refeeding. So the first real meal that I was able to have, though, I had a huge T-bone steak. Giant. I mean, it came out on the plate, and I thought what I would have done for this. So so I had the big T-bone, the salad. I think I was at one of the more common chop houses.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just something that I remember chewing slowly.
Yeah.
Just having an absolute attitude of gratitude, which I still do.
Yeah.
Even when I turn on the hot water in my shower, I just have a different perspective of things. So yes, I craved Indian food, man.
Oh, really?
I love Indian food. I wanted chicken curry with the onion or a garlic or oregano or all the above. I didn't care, man. I wanted to bathe in a bowl of rice. I dreamt about food, and that's what was maddening, because it's like your brain is sending you all the signals to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
These are all the things I want. These are all the things I need. And I remember in the beginning phases of the starvation, I used to punch myself in my sleeping bag at night to break myself out of the maddening craving that I would have. But eventually, after 3 or 4 days, it didn't work. So you have to do other tricks to trick your mind into thinking you're getting something. So yeah, wild. Now, Andy, about the other guy.
The other guy.
Yeah.
The other guy.
The other guy. Yeah, the other guy. The other guy went fishing when it was convenient and nice out.
Yeah.
The other guy hunted whitetail, which, like, if you've ever been in Kentucky, you can barely drive.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah.
That's here.
Yeah. That's same in Ohio. Yeah.
It's not like the Arctic. I'd made friction fire. I'd set traps. I'd built shelters. I mean, I've been doing that kind of stuff since I was a young little kid.
Mm-hmm.
We all did it, I think, to some degree. The difference is this: like, how to set the trap, but do you know how it reacts in negative 30-degree weather?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Okay, so you know how to do the trap line, but do you know how to set the trap line appropriately to defend it against like fox? Okay, so like these are things I learned.
Yeah.
Like, because I had problems that I had to solve. I had never made a scoop net before. That was the first time I'd ever made a fishing net. What I had seen before was a basketball net, so I reverse engineered that, and boom, scoop net. So ingenuity is huge when it comes to surviving, especially in a place you're not familiar with.
Yeah.
Especially when weather's not the best all the time, and especially whenever you're landlocked, but the animals aren't. They can go anywhere they want. So, so knowing how to do the things is great, but also knowing how to effectively apply them in an environment that is not always the best is another as well. So you learn those things.
Yeah, I that's extremely valuable advice.
Yeah,
we can look stuff up and make stuff we can make traps in our backyard all day long, but until you're out there.
-30. Did they tell you when you were in boot camp, or like did they tell you before all of this where the location was going to be?
They gave us it wasn't a lot of notice. I can't remember what it was. I think we had maybe 5 or 6 weeks before we had to ship out. But to be perfectly honest, man, like there wasn't a lot of information. I couldn't just look up like Great Slave Lake, Canada.
Yeah.
Did they?
I mean, like,
did they? This is something you kind of mentioned. Did they tell you like you're not allowed to move?
Yeah, you just stay put.
You have an area that you're confined to. They use something called a geofence.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, they set it with like a computer, and then it sends a satellite signal. It's always monitoring you where you're at. You have to carry this yellow brick. It's like what you always see that people push whenever they tap out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like that thing follows you around. And I remember I think it was twice I set up in these incredible hunt locations, like beautiful lanes for clear shooting, reindeer moss. I thought, oh God, dinner served. Get all the cameras set up, sit down, cover up. And the next thing I know, I get these beeps and it says, heads up on the beach. You came. I'm like,
see, this is so cool because you don't see any of this when you're watching the show. You don't hear about any of this.
You learn your boundary. You kind of start probing because you also need to learn the lay of the land. You're also looking for spoor. You're looking for places to trap, to stalk hunt, higher ground. All of this stuff you're trying to utilize to your highest yield. Whether you don't catch anything with the bow and arrow that day, if you recognize a new blueberry field or you recognize a new run through some pines that you can set some snares up, that's still a productive day. But I tell you, man, it's easy to do in the beginning. As it gets colder and colder and you weaker and weaker, it's harder to get out there and start trying to fend for yourself. It gets tough, but you just got to try.
What
Did I answer the question?
Oh, dude, no. Yes. I could do this for hours.
Yeah.
What was a typical day like out there? Because it's hard to get a feel from the show because they're kind of cutting you around and it's hard. Walk us through did you have like a typical day where what was like a regular day like when you were in the midst of it? Like 40 or 50 days in. Right. Well, 40 or 50 days in, you have to understand that our level of daylight was diminishing.
Yeah,
that's true.
The sunlight would come above the horizon, would barely break the mountain or the rock formations across. It was very low in the sky for most of the day. Now, it got to a point too where things were getting a little iffy in regards to whether they could get to us in the middle of the night because of such poor condition.
Right.
So you had to make good decisions after dark.
Yeah.
That kind of. You don't want to start processing wood.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So you have to do those sort of things. But now, day 40 or 50, the way that it would work for me is I would normally awake in the morning and I would first be listening for the wind direction and the direction that the waves were crashing. Because if I couldn't hear one, I could normally hear the other, and it would tell me about what kind of weather I could expect that day. Northerly winds with waves crashing on my beach. I knew, okay, I'm gonna get some snow today, colder conditions. Likewise, it came from the south. I knew I was gonna have some rain, that sort of thing. So right away, I knew: am I fishing today? Am I stock hunting today? The weather kind of told me before I even got my pants on what I was going to be doing. So I would get up, and part of the regulations in our show was that we had to check the trap line twice a day. And I was to get out there.
Okay.
See, these are things we're getting good behind the scenes information here. They don't talk about that.
Yeah. Is that because if you got something on there, you want to immediately get it off?
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, it's proper hunting practice.
Right. Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do. I mean, like and we had rules we had to abide by. We had to use barbless hooks. We couldn't hunt certain animals certain ways. We couldn't hunt certain animals at all. So it wasn't like a true survival scenario where I had been pulling out all of the hillbilly stops to be catching whatever. I mean, I would have, there are some redneck things you can get, that have high yield practices.
Yeah.
Not that I've ever done any of them. I've only seen YouTube videos. But the thing I was actually trying to say was, I would get up, and the first thing I'd want to do is check my trap line. And you would check the trap line, and for me, it was about a quarter mile in the beginning, but it began to get diminished slowly and slowly as I got weaker and weaker, and I started losing game to fox. It was just more than I could handle. But then that day, I would decide what I was going to do. And normally, after my bay froze, it was a lot of stock hunting and then sitting in one area and just hoping something stumbled across my path. I would maybe go to a new area and find spoor, but it would be obviously 10 to 12 hours old because of the amount of snow that had blowed over it. It wasn't a fresh trap, so you don't know. It's like you can't tell. It's not like there's an alarm. Like, wake up, man! A moose is up there. Like, I mean, like, I didn't have anything coming as close as into my camp, so. It was difficult. So a lot of my day was spent hydrating, checking my trap line, and taking advantage of what Mother Nature would actually give me. If that was fair weather that I could fish in, great. If it wasn't, and I had enough, wind in my face that I felt I could position myself, to be beneficial, I tried that too. But honestly, when you're out there, you're trying anything, man. You're swinging for the freaking fences.
Yeah.
Anything, anything. Even if that's just collecting berries.
Yeah.
So one thing I was like, I gotta ask him this is, did you ever like hear or see anything that just really weirded you out? Like, you're like, what the hell is that? Like,
yes. Okay. So check this out. I have this story. I like telling it, man, because
let's hear it.
I can still recall it very vividly. All right. Well, okay. So now understand, I don't believe this is what it was. I believe my brain. Okay. So here's what I want you to understand. Whenever you are dying, which essentially was what that was, my body was slowly, and my brain is trying to make freaking sense of it. It goes through the Rolodex of experiences you've had in your life, and it's trying to make sense of stuff, right? So I'm thinking what happened was, in that weird chemical synapsing and all of this, I heard what I heard, okay? But I remember I was laying there one night, and it was easily already into the -20, -30s, and I was bundled up, and that brown hat that I had lost in the beginning, that the helicopter pilot brought back to me.
Yeah.
I was using it at this time to cover my eyes and my nose because those parts were beginning to freeze in the middle of the night. But as I was laying there, it was a completely still, quiet night. I heard nothing. There was none of the winds, none of the waves. It was just a beautifully clear, quiet night. I was laying there, and I heard children laughing and running in the forest.
What?
No.
Look, I know, dude. I know. Listen.
Like, what did you like? Did you heard just like kids laugh? Like, tell us about it.
Like laughter, like play, like playful laughter, right? And I remember laying there, and at that point, I was sleeping in my gloves, and I took my gloves off, and I had a blade that was up by my head. So I took off my hood of my marmot because I had already had a visitor, a bear that came to me once.
Mhm.
So I grabbed my blade, and I'm sitting there, and you know how you do when you sit and you just kind of aim your ear?
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way I heard that. Laid back down, put my hands back there, relaxing again, heard it another time. Listen, this happened about five times throughout the night.
Oh.
Where and the thing was, it wasn't coming from the same side of my shelter. I honestly thought the people from Alone were fucking with me, like from the show.
Maybe they were.
Hand to Odin, dude. I thought for sure that they had like some little speaker, like they were trying to punk me out to get me to go. Or I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. But I think you guys may see it. Like there's a scene where the next day I wake up and I'm doing something, and the way they edited it, you can actually see it. I go, "Hello."
Oh.
Yo. And it says Barry's having audible hallucinations.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
So like it was the show captured it. I didn't have my camera on in the middle of the night because I was sleeping.
Right.
But it was something. So like they say though, if it didn't happen on film, didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure something if the camera was rolling, anybody would have heard anyway. But it was trippy. It was very trippy because we were on sacred land. We were on the Lutzelk'e Dene Native people's land.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to understand, these people were put out by the Canadian government with nothing more than, I think, a pound of flour in a wagon per family.
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
They were put in this area in effort to eradicate them, thinking they wouldn't survive. But little did they know these people are they're carved out of stone, and they were able to make it. But I was on sacred land. They view everything as sacred, and I don't know, when you get out there and you're in it, you're living in you're watching the Aurora Borealis happen. You get really, it's magical,
That's amazing.
Damn, I did not expect. I thought you'd be like, I heard a Sasquatch. Or like, I did not expect children playing in the woods.
I don't believe in Sasquatch either.
Or like, I was like, maybe he saw a UFO. That's what I was like. I was like, oh yeah.
That would have been cool.
So another thing, you kind of talked about it, because Andy and I, we always talk about how much bear encounters freak us out, and I know you kind of talked about it a little bit, but what was that something that actually worried you? And what did they did they give you what did they give you for bear deterrence? They give you stuff, right?
Yeah, first of all, what they give you is a lot of high hopes that those are going to work.
Yeah. Wait, was that with your encounter? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go through training. Oh, that's okay, Andy. I got you. What do you have?
Was that the scene where you were waking up and it was like outside of your shelter?
That's right.
Yeah,
it began to pace around my shelter.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it was pretty banana sandwich that night because I remember I was laying there in bed, and that's when I heard the footsteps come walking into camp, and I thought it was a human. Oh, and I was like,
dude.
Because it sounded like it was like, clunky.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a little skittle of something,
Yeah.
And I was like, that's crazy. Packing the snow down, I was like, oh, wasn't my first thought there at all. So what was the question?
I don't know.
No, it was
like,
first off, it's grizzly. It's grizzly up there, right?
Brown bear.
Oh, it's brown.
Were you thinking I'm gonna go eat that thing? Were you like,
no.
Oh.
No. I'm telling you right now, if you watch the video, okay, and they're like, I'm sitting there, and I remember I was, my eyes, the adrenaline causes my eyes to just get this big. But there were other parts of me that shrunk very, very I was scared. Who wants that? So I remember they give you a lot of high hopes, but they give you like something called a bear banger.
Yeah.
It's saw me shoot one out the top of my shelter.
Right. Yeah.
They give you bear spray. And then they just give you a lot of like other knowledge, like how to recognize the air, scat spore, all that kind of thing. So that night when it came into the camp, it was heavy, and I knew it, and I could hear it kind of like make a sniff, like a taking in the air,
Oh,
and I got
damn.
shit. I slept every night with an arrow already knocked in my
dude.
So I remember I got up and I drew my blade that I had, and I had two fingers for the draw of the arrow, because I thought as soon as I plug this thing, it's just going to come through, and then
Right.
here we go. And, I wasn't going to win. I wanted it to remember me at least, like Tristan off of Legend. It was a good death, But so so whenever I heard that, I remember as it was pacing and I was on one knee, I was circling in this dark ass little shelter. And I was like, this is not going to work out for me. This is not going to work out for me. So I immediately went to plan B, and that's whenever I hit the bear banger. And then I think you hear it. It sounds like a Volkswagen kind of driving through the woods, and that's what it sounded like. So I just kind of took off.
Dude.
So it was wild. It was something that I had never. It was something I didn't expect that late in the season, because there was a particular berry, and the name escapes me now. But this berry is the last berry that the bears eat before they go into hibernation, and this berry was gone. So I thought, oh, I missed the bear. The bear have already gone into den, So when this thing came about, it caught me completely off guard. But I tell you, man, talking about ingenuity, do you want me to carry on about this?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So check this out. I'll do this real quick. So if you remember, I said something like I was going to overload my offense to the right side of my shelter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason I did that was because I had actually cut a large part of a double-sided tarp. And during full moons, I could see through that like a movie screen. So anything passing in front of that, I would have been able to see. Well, what I did was I put the last little bit of fish that I had in these guts over in this area that I was right outside my tent, because I was going to try and bait it onto that. And then I started shooting through my tent. I shot like 6 times till I finally got it dialed in right where I knew it would be. And then I covered all of the other 5 holes, and I had this one hole that would glow bright.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Well, then, so I knew that's the one I had to aim for. But then what I did was I took the pull ring off of my Marmot bag. It glowed in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I put that on the end of my broadhead. And that thing glowed throughout the night. So I just pulled that up, and all I had to do was match that Marmot glow tip to my hole and let it go.
Dude, that's really
cool. Super smart.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I was hoping he would come back, or something would come back, because I knew I already had the hole, I had the angle, I was already positioned in the middle of my shelter. I knew exactly what I had to do. I just had to cock it back and let it go, but never came.
That's really ingenious.
Yeah. Ingenuity, man.
Yeah.
Hope the crew doesn't come walking around in the night.
Right. Hey, that's their fault.
Oh my
God. Trespassing. Get off the king's land.
I have a question. So we'll get to, there's a lot of
There's a lot of questions, I know,
coming in, but will you talk a little bit about like some of the biggest like highs and like things that occurred like that helped motivate you while you were out there to last as long as you did? Like some of your wins.
Yeah. Okay. So
like
wins.
Yeah.
So some of my wins. Okay. So to be perfectly honest, the first win that happened was I settled into the suck. That was the first one.
Yeah.
For the first week, I mean, I was pretty shook. I was like, damn, there's so much to do. I have so many tasks to get into place, because when they dropped us, it was September 9th. It wasn't like it was spring. Like I had a lot to do. So first, getting past and settling into that suck.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing was some of my highs are whenever I found the tin cans and was able to fashion them into fishing lures.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. That started producing for me, and that made me super excited. Some of my highs too was whenever I found this berry field. It was chock full of something called crowberries, and it's a berry that exists, long into the winter, so you can actually, pick it. And whenever I found that, made me feel very good because I knew I had something stable, you know.
Yeah.
Raven, the Raven, Odin, my good
Your
buddy.
buddy.
That was super big high. Also, too, when I started making my camp my home, when I made my sign,
Yeah.
Yeah.
uh,
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
I also wrote a lot of positive, inspiring quotes on the inside of my shelter with charcoal. These things kept me uplifted. Having the mindset of beating the next day with like the pole notching and that sort of thing. So, you know, and also constantly imagining my wife showing up and, dude, we've done it, you know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
fuck, you know, that really keeps you high. But yeah, so catching the fish, that was super
Yeah, you
helpful.
caught
Yeah.
some.
You caught some nice
I mean,
Lakers.
those fish were huge.
Dude, they had the Great Slave Lake has like the largest like trout
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the world. It's a banana sandwich. I mean, it was fun to actually fish with them because I was just hand fishing. You know,
Hmm.
I just was
Yeah.
like I felt like the old man in the sea sometimes. You know, 'cause when you were working with a barbless hook, you had to keep that pressure on it. You know, and
Yeah. That's right. That's
it was
right.
really something to feel that fight at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Especially whenever you were, you know, you had to worry about exposure. You could fish for 15 minutes and your hands would go numb. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
something. Yeah. So yeah, those were definitely some of my highs. That's a great question. That's a great question.
It is. I want do
Yeah. Well, I'll give you some of the questions from the chat.
Okay.
These are pretty solid. So Smoky Bees Naturals, he asked a good question. We kind of touched on this, but he expands on it. How do you keep the cameras charged and not run out of battery?
Yeah. So what they did was, first of all, we have about every few weeks, we have like a media med check where they come, and sometimes it's not even a med check, it's just a media, and they swap everything out. They
Okay.
swap all your
Okay.
batteries, they swap all your SD cards. If something's jacked up with your camera, they'll leave you a new one. And then eventually it got to the point where the cold was draining our batteries so quickly that they gave us something, I think it's called a Kodiak battery cell.
Hmm.
And this cell was more equipment that we had to stow and tend to, but we could plug into it. It was just a battery block, and that's how
Okay.
we were able to get that stuff charged.
Nice. Backcountry Exposure, Devin asked, how difficult was it to get selected to be on the show? I mean, you kind of touched on this, but yeah.
It went pretty fluid for me. I tell you what I did. I applied online. They didn't seek me out. Some people get sought out.
Okay.
And sometimes there are people who like refer other people. Like that was one thing I noticed. Like there's like everybody knows everybody in this community, you know. So like, you know, so I just applied like every other Joe Schmo.
Hmm.
The process went something like this: applied online, phone interview, Skype interview, um, like a go out into the woods and film yourself doing
Right.
your
Oh,
high school
okay.
stuff, send that in, and then boot camp. And then if you pass boot camp, you're one of the 12 that go on. So it it's just a lot of like waiting, and it's a lot of, I feel honestly, respecting their time. If you're thinking about doing this, if
Yeah.
they reach out to you, like respond like immediately, like respect their time. These people work hard. I mean, they work hours upon hours on this show. So if they even give you an inkling that they're interested in you, respect that.
Yeah.
And run that.
How before you get to the next one, how long is that process of like first trying to get on to like you're on the show? Like 6 months?
I don't know. I'd say yeah, it was several months process because they have like I said, we have like 20,000 applicants, you know.
Yeah.
So they really have to whittle down a lot of talent, you know, and that's why I was surprised I even got picked. I was like, no shit. Like,
And
I felt that.
Did you apply? Did you apply for other seasons?
Nope, not at all. I had only seen season 1 through 3. And I remember my wife was pregnant with our daughter.
Oh,
And
wow.
Yeah, my daughter was 7 weeks old whenever I went out on the show.
Oh, damn.
So my daughter, my wife was pregnant with my daughter. She was sitting on the couch across the way. We just put my boy down, who was 2 at the time, for a nap, and she was doing a Sudoku. And it came on, the show was on, and said, you know, would you like to try to be on Alone? And I was like, damn right. You know? So I start working away on my phone, and my wife looks over and she's like, "What are you doing?" I said, I looked at her and I was like, "I'm applying for this show," and she goes, "This show alone?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, if you're applying for this show, I'm going to go ahead and start making preparations because I know you're going to get on."
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Your wife's a smart cookie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, my wife, my wife is just an incredible supporter first, but secondarily, man, like, my wife just believes there's nothing, believes there's nothing I can't do. Like, she just thinks there's, you know, if I go after it, I'm going to do it. So sure as shit, she was right.
That's pretty funny.
Gone Feral with Squidly. I think I know the answer to this question too, and you kind of talked about this, but what was harder, mental, physical, or isolation?
It's it's weird because they happen in different stages.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a wham bam. I would say the mental, hands down, because what we do with our lives is we tend to varnish a lot of our past. We do this as a survival mechanism, right? It helps us get through our day, helps us socialize well and straight and narrow and walk the line. Right. So like when you're out there, all that gets stripped. So like the memories that you varnished, they come back in like full motion picture. It's like almost trauma reenactments. So like for me, whenever it was super cold and I was laying down in my shelter, I had full and complete recollection of whenever my family was homeless and we were sleeping in a van in a mall parking lot. I remember how the van floor felt.
Wow.
The corrugated floor felt cold on my shoulder. I was there again. I was that little boy. And then you know it's not happening. You know you're not there. You're a grown ass man in the middle of the Arctic, but now you're addressing these things because, like I said, your brain is going lizard. It's trying to make sense of what the hell is why. We need to make sense of this. So I think a lot of people, when they talk about a near-death experience, they say, "My life flashed before my eyes." What is actually suggested is happening is your brain is going through its Rolodex trying to make sense of this near-death moment, this moment that we can't wrap our minds around. So it seemed like once the day was idle and the time slowed down, my brain began to make sense of it all. And that stirred up a lot of shit.
Wow.
So the mental for me was harder even than the starvation and the loss of weight.
Wow. Makes complete sense. You're just alone with your thoughts.
Damn.
Oh yeah. And there's no cheerleader. There's no therapist. There's nobody to hug you, say it's not your fault. You know, like,
right.
Like, there's no Matt Damon. You know, talking about Good Will Hunting, right? It's not your fault. No, it's not your fault. I know.
I know.
I know. Yeah, you know, it's serious. You know, it takes a lot out of you, and it takes a lot out of you even whenever you come back because you still have to now address those things.
Yeah.
Damn.
Good question.
That was a good question.
All right. Tommy Hovington Hiking asked, and this kind of goes back to a little bit what you were talking about too. How big an area was that geofence? Do you know? Roughly?
Good question.
You know, I'd say, you know, they gave us a good amount of space.
Like miles? Like miles?
No, I'd say no, I wouldn't say miles. I don't remember being able to travel miles.
Okay.
Yeah, and you also have to understand too. You have to work with your terrain features. They may give you space, but can you get to it? You know, like
right.
One thing, like I never really got to explore the north, I think it was the northwest portion of my territory because it was so heavily with brush and thicket. It would tear up my rain gear. So I just I go that way.
Awesome.
Wait, I wanna steal a question before we keep going because we need to go through Barry's 10 items.
Well, funny you mentioned that because Allie, your wife, segued into
Barry,
that.
So Barry, right now I gotta give a shout out. My wife and I, who love this show, she's fangirling hard right now, and I was like, you need to text me your questions because we're getting ripped in the chat right now. So shout out to my wife, but can we go through do you have his 10 items up on the?
Yeah.
Well, let's go through your 10 items, and her question was, just would you change? And let's go through. Andy, read off his 10 items.
I'm gonna read off the 10 items. So sleeping bag, ferro rod, knife, saw, pot, paracord, trapping wire, tarp, bow and arrow, fishing line and hooks. Sound accurate?
So what?
Yeah.
So what would you change any of them?
Yes.
Okay.
In hindsight, for sure. Yeah.
What would you change?
Okay. So, well, I probably would have taken the axe over the saw first and foremost.
Interesting.
I made my assessment about the saw because I was accustomed to using it for a multitude of things, processing lumber. I use it to actually make traps. I'm good at making the parts for things with them. So understand, whenever you choose your 10 items, there's a balancing act that happens. You play into your strengths, but you also play into the area, the region. So whenever I arrived on site and I saw that the trees weren't much bigger than, this round, I thought an axe was overkill. But once everything froze over, that axe would have been extremely helpful in me trying to be ice fish.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Oh, getting through the ice.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I totally would have changed that because once the animals moved out, it really was about fishing. And the fish provided great fat, all that fun stuff. Yeah. So I would have changed that. Let's see. I probably would not have taken the second tarp. I think I probably would have. You have to understand, there's categories, you guys. There's categories, there's categories where you get to, say, take a bow and arrow. Let's just pretend. Take a bow and arrow. Take a shotgun, take a machete.
Yeah.
And then down here, it's take a sleeping bag, so you have these categories of about, I think you have 63 items. And then we chose 10 from those.
Oh, because I was going to ask you about that. So when you say, I want to take a sleeping bag, are they you can pick from these 10 bags?
No, what they do is, though, they do ask that you kind of share with them what you're doing.
Okay.
With what you're bringing, because there are rules. For instance, I took a ferro rod. That's one of my 10, and I would not have changed that one. I took a ferro rod, but I made a special handle for it because I was always trying to be forward thinking, working in the cold, or if I fell through the ice and I was freezing, how would I handle this starter? So I made this unique handle for it, which was allowed, but it had to be dipped in rubber so that the wood wasn't exposed. So I couldn't use
it. Oh, they're smart.
Oh gosh.
So you have some freedom there, but there are some guidelines, because they want to try and keep the playing field as even as possible.
Yeah.
So I would have probably swapped out the tarp. I can't remember what I would have swapped it out for, but definitely would have probably swapped it out for a gill net.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
A bunch of other contestants talked about that too. About
Yeah. I've since learned how to do that, how to make a gill net. Not something I've learned before. So if they ever call me back for redemption,
that's right. That's a thing. Yeah, I was looking at your items.
Oh, let me go back.
Did you have to submit them?
Are you okay?
Yeah, I got some bourbon in my life. Did you submit them? Here's my 10 items, and they look at them and okay them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They just basically what they did. I said, I want this much paracord. Great. It's not the paracord that has the fire starter entwined in it, is it?
Oh.
Okay.
So that's the only reason they're doing that. If they just said paracord, bring what you want, dude, I would have would have injected it with peanut butter. Man, I would have done whatever it took. But
that is so funny.
Yeah.
What was, out of your 10 items, which one did you use the least? We're just like, oh man, this is a waste. I'm looking at them right now.
Yeah, paracord. I did more like arts and crafts with paracord.
Yeah, it took up time. It kept your mind occupied, maybe.
Gill nets seem to be a popular thing.
Well, it was a good place for a gill net.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Make one though. I didn't know what I was doing. Like I told you, I was a Kentucky dude. Like the only ice fishing I've ever done was like with a fifth of bourbon in a shed in the heater. A bunch of hillbillies talking shit, you know. Like it's never been like that, you know. It was fierce, you know. Exposure was tough out there.
Yeah. Would you say that was the hardest physical element, was the exposure?
No, starvation.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, okay, so and then
slowly dying beats that.
I'm gonna say hands down. Probably.
Yeah, that's a good point. Slowly dying beats that. Yeah.
Did they let you like were you allowed to like bring whatever like clothing you want, like insulation and like layers?
No. Like you were allowed to bring a certain number of items, right? But they had to be approved. Like like let's say I brought my jacket, right? That jacket couldn't be like specially made with like 90,000 geese down. You know? Just like you know, it had to be within reason. So, what was the question? Hit me again. What was that?
Just talking. Well, I remember watching you, and you had cool bibs. You had like nice. You had nice down.
If you look at because my wife and I geeked out hard, you can see the clothing list that they let you bring, and there's a lot of clothes. But like his question was like, is it the same set of clothes for every contestant, or they're like, hey, no. You can bring whatever you want?
Some people like made their own clothes, like Wonia.
Yeah.
She made all of her own clothes. Like, I just bought mine. I don't. So Jordan had something, special. Yeah. Everybody had like again, everybody was playing into their strengths.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you have to understand, like everybody also is representing themselves.
Yeah.
We're all representing ourselves in some way, shape, or form. And if somebody has a strength, and let's say they teach that thing, or they have a book about that thing, the last thing they're going to do is go on the show with like synthetics.
Yeah, that's true.
If their whole gig is making clothes, they're going to be as authentic as possible. And that's cool. I think that's what's great about the show.
Were there any in hindsight, were there any clothing changes you would make, like looking back on
100%? Yeah. 100%. I had two phases of clothing. I had decided that I wanted my coldest weather clothing to have snow camouflage, and then like the earlier season stuff to be rain resistant, not as heavy, and be more of a mossy oak. So the one thing I would have done is I would have made my winter clothing probably about 2 sizes smaller.
Yeah, because
you lost weight.
I lost like 82 pounds, so that stuff was just hanging off of me. The other thing I would have done too is I would have focused a lot more on the wools. A lot of wool.
Interesting.
I might have screwed myself a little with my underlayers, but I will say this about that: there was a point when I had all of my socks on in bed, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. I mean, it was to the point where my zipper was freezing. Like if I wanted to get out of my bag, I'd have to grab my zipper, blow on it a few times to get it warmed up, and then finally get it going.
Jeez.
I mean, phew, it was wild.
What was the temperature rating on your bag?
It was like, well, first of all, that's nonsense. Whoever I want you to know, if I meet the individual, I think there's comfort level and there's survival.
We talk about that a lot. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And now you have to take that into absolute consideration. If you're talking comfortability, then you need to cut that in half.
Yeah.
And if it's survivability, even then, there were some nights I'd wake up with a deep shiver. It's
Yeah.
even then. So I think it was like -40 to answer your question.
Jeez. Andy talks.
We reached that.
Andy, this is great. You brought that. Andy, we both talk a lot about comfort rating versus survival rating.
Yeah. Survival is no fun.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's especially different. I mean, and there's so much to consider whenever you're talking about hypothermic conditions and living in them. I'm not talking visiting and playing. We lived in the conditions.
Yeah.
So you have to constantly be focused on so much, staying hydrated, exposure. I remember using, some fat just to keep my lips as best I could from getting chapped. The same fat that I would use on my bow and arrow, that kind of a thing. My bowstring to keep it conditioned. The cold is just relentless. It weighs on you like a lead blanket. It's a different type of hurt.
Yeah. Jeez.
Because it won't budge.
Yeah. It doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's harsh.
Second part of your wife's question was,
okay,
and this is really interesting too. Did you have any interactions with the other contestants like after the show?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
That's vital. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's so freaking important that you connect with another person who has gone through what less than 1% of the world's population will ever experience.
Yeah.
For a lot of us, we feel more alone being back than we did when we were out there.
Interesting.
We come back with new insight. We come back with new understandings, new growth. We have a different set of priorities. I mean, my whole life took a complete overhaul.
Yeah.
I mean, from front to back, there's nothing that didn't get affected by this. So we have to stay in contact because we love one another.
Mm-hmm.
We care about one another. What might have been competition, by day 30, all you're thinking about is you hope they're okay. Because you realize this sucks.
Yeah. Do they like bring you all together like when it's all said and done?
No. They're very, very careful about all of that.
Really?
You have to understand, there's not a cut and dry protocol for each person that comes out. Every person comes out at a different time, a different condition, a different state of mind, a different understanding about the experience, just a different chemistry nearly. So there's no one cut way to do that. What it takes is not somebody trying to sit there and go, yes, I understand. Let's go deeper into that. I don't want that shit. What we want to do is talk to the person who also lost 80 pounds.
Yeah.
Like we want to talk to that person who's laughing at the fact that, people are upset about syrup bottles. 2 to 3, never mind, 2 to 3 million children are going to starve this year. It's like we sit back and we're just it's hard. Yeah. It's hard reintegrating. So we need one another because you will feel more alone than you ever have trying to come back with this new understanding and trying to plug it into an old existence. It's hard.
Yeah. Who like do you still talk to the season 6 people or like are you still in contact with them?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I talk to Brady all the time because he's hysterical. He always laughs at all my skits and jokes that I put out there. Makes me feel like I'm actually funny. I talk to Michelle all the time via messaging, but she actually guides a lot. She's in the backcountry a lot. So yeah, absolutely. Miss Wonia, I try and talk to her, but to be perfectly honest, I love and miss her to the point that like she was like the first person I spoke to whenever I came out. And like there's that forever. It's like when the same metal in space touches.
Yeah.
It immediately welds, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So like it's to the point where like I don't even know how to reapproach Woni. I'm saying this on live television, but I love you, Woni. But like so I mean like these people have such a huge role. Yeah, it's big. It's big.
That's really cool. That's something they don't talk about on the show is the connection you guys have with each other.
Well, I mean, who else is going to understand what you're talking about?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So this This sounds like kind of a depressing question, but DBT Tales and Trails says, if you don't win alone, do you earn or get awarded anything?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
You get nothing, right? Do you get nothing?
You get nothing.
You get to be on our podcast.
You get a cool story, and you get it documented for
Yeah,
history.
that's
you know
true.
what I mean? Like, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
you're
It's fine.
fine. Yeah.
It's fine.
Oh,
You're all good. It's all good.
Senile.
It's all good.
No, the trade-off is this. It's like, look, okay, we're going to give you this once in a lifetime opportunity, okay? We're going to put you as close to a true survival situation as possible and give you a safety net so you don't die.
Yeah.
Cool?
Yeah.
And all we ask that you do is get it on film.
Yeah.
And if by some amazing feat you're the last person standing, we're going to go ahead and give you $500,000.
Yeah.
So like, there's an understanding that like, you're getting a really cool opportunity.
Yeah,
like I
for
said,
sure.
I had to see the Aurora Borealis. I don't know many folks from Kentucky who can say that.
Yeah. That's
Shout. We got several people from Kentucky in the chat, by the way.
Speaking of Kentucky, next question.
Yeah. Next question is from someone who lives in Kentucky.
Yeah. John Kelly says, when did the loneliness really kick in, and you had to really keep yourself in check and not go crazy?
Yes. Okay. So when the loneliness, I think, really began to kick in was I began to realize I couldn't recall my children's faces.
Oh, damn.
My brain had reprioritized, and that was of no,
Right.
and I couldn't even put them in context and remember them. And that hurt because they were a large part of my why.
Wow.
And I think it was after October 1st, which was my wife and I's third wedding anniversary. And I was out there, wasn't there to celebrate it, couldn't remember my kids' faces. I think that's when I had my first breakdown. And that was whenever I really felt the inky blackness of the alone experience step forward and in a way claim a part of me. It kind of went, aha, I found a weakness. Because as hard as you try, as much of a badass, it's gonna find you. It will find you. It's gonna crack you open like an egg. And it did. It found that weakness, and the weakness was my why.
Yeah.
And it started working on me. So yeah, I would say right around that 30-day mark, bud.
Wow. After a month. Oh my
God. DBT Tales and Trails asks again, this is a good question. How long after they pulled you was it before you were back home in Colorado?
About a month. They had to take good care of me.
Yeah.
I was very feral. That's one thing people don't understand either. Like I was fucking wild, man, dude. Like,
yeah.
I remember being able to sit in the cabin that I was recovering in, and I could hear boots come down hallways, and I knew who it was.
Wow.
Like I knew, I was like, this person's coming down the hall. Like I was so fair. I was tuned in, hyper tuned in, every smell.
Wow.
Wow.
So they had to get me to and then they had to also get me healthy enough that I could get myself home safely.
Yeah.
So after I kind of began to realize my food was coming, I didn't have to like panic and have anxiety over hunger, and that I started to calm down, and then my weight began to get back up, and then I remember I started out lifting like 5-pound dumbbells in the hotel, just trying to get strong so I could get home. But it was about 30 days before they took me, but they did the right thing.
Yeah,
they took the best in care of me, and I listened, followed the doctor's orders. I think that was a huge part of why it worked out well.
Where are you during this?
Yeah.
Are you in Canada?
Yeah. So what happens first is whenever I was first pulled, because I was pulled medically, I was immediately taken to a hospital.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
because I needed immediate medical attention, and everything was kind of hitting me at that point too.
Right.
Like emotionally, I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit, I didn't win.
Yeah.
Like this, you understand? Like I was normally that dude who anything I tried, I achieved, and like how did this happen? How did I
Yeah.
lose this opportunity? You know? So like there's a lot of that going on in those first few moments. But I took it to a hospital. And so it happened in a city called Yellowknife, which is a city closest to the Great Slave
Oh,
Lake.
okay.
We follow a trapper there.
Oh, that's where that dude is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andrew Stanley.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So so you're close. They don't evacuate you far away from where you are.
First it was like I flew in by plane. They had to fly me
Okay.
from where I was, the trapping and fishing lodge by the Great Slave Lake. Then they flew me into the Yellowknife, and then from there they vanned me into the hospital. But I was greeted by the most incredibly beautiful, brilliant, pure energy, just motherly, nurturing woman by the name of Jessie Collins. I came stumbling off the plane, a shell of whoever the hell I thought that was that went out there, and she just took me in with open hands. It's like this. She's just like, "Come here, honey."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just everything that was lacking out there. You know, it was just beautiful. It was the best that the moment could be.
Wow.
That's interesting. Yeah, you don't hear that part of this stuff.
No, this is so cool.
Another question from DBT Tales and Trails, and this is interesting too. Did they give you any budget to help you buy your items that you had to take?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
They do. Yes, absolutely. They're very generous on that front. They want you to go out there prepared, of course. Yeah. And you don't have to spend a dime of it. They're really great. I mean, if you want to make your own jacket, that's cool. You know, well, then use it for the thread of the leather, whatever, you know, like they don't care really how it gets done. Just, we're going to help you out because we know not everybody's geared for the Arctic. You know what I mean? So it was very helpful. And, but yeah, I used every penny of it, just because stuff's expensive. Man.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Especially to survive those temps.
That.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was doing everything I could too. I was trying to be on my hustle. Like, hey, I'm going on a show. You want me to wear your stuff? And they're like, who are you?
Oh, really? Oh, really? You tried that? Oh, really?
I
they
tried.
said no.
Yeah, man. I thought
that's a good.
I'm a businessman, kind of, entrepreneur at heart anyway.
Yeah.
So I thought I'm always looking at the angle in regards to that kind of thing.
I'm surprised nobody took you up on that.
Yeah.
You know, if I was a gear company, I would have. Yeah.
Man, that would have been rad. Any gear companies now that want me to go out and destroy your gear. And
B3 Outdoors. This is, and you kind of mentioned to us before the podcast started a little bit about this, but how often are you doing outdoorsy stuff now?
Oh yeah, man, all the time. I live about a 30-minute drive from the Rocky Mountain, the front range of the Rocky Mountains.
Right.
I usually spend a lot of time up 14 and 63, especially now that the fires are gone and everything's kind of idle in that front. So, I have an incredible life, and I have set it up that way, especially since I've been back, where the thing I am working for constantly is time.
Yeah.
Not money, not material things, working for time.
Yeah.
Because ultimately I feel by achieving that, everything else will follow. Like, I have been extremely fortunate in being able to do so. And I'm extremely fortunate that I have a young son who doesn't understand comfort levels, who will go up there and get cold with me, in an overnight. And I have a wife who's just like, who will literally go, you need to get out of here. You need to go up the hill. And I'm like, I know. So I just, my truck stays loaded, if that answers your question.
That's awesome.
A lot.
Yeah, that's sweet.
That's awesome.
Do you get to keep any of the footage that you took, or is that all property?
I have no rights to that. That's all theirs.
Yeah.
I had this really dope freestyle rap that I did, and I tried to get that footage because it was original. Trying to drop a mixtape here.
That's pretty funny.
So last question here. It says, I think we obviously know the answer to this, but B3 Outdoor says, what would you rate your survival skills before the show versus after the show? Obviously, much more experienced, I would guess, right?
Yeah, man. There's no like, okay, so there's no way you can go through something like that and not figure a few things out along the way.
Right.
I think the one thing that I will say is this: being out there, when you boil down salt water, you're left with salt.
Yeah.
And being out there boiled down the salt of survival. There is a lot of bullshito nonsense out there that is just not applicable.
Yeah.
It's not. It won't work. And people are charging people for this information. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
But I think what it did was it makes you realize that the more you know, the less you have to carry.
Yeah.
And that has been the biggest thing. I need less than I even needed before I went out there. So I think that's been the biggest difference. It has whittled down what we often view as the essentials.
Yeah. I want to ask a question.
Go for it.
Listen, guys. I have all night. You don't have to
Stuff starts coming in.
Nothing going.
Well, Well, this is a backpacking channel, and you have posted on Instagram. But do you do a lot of backpacking currently? I know you do on Instagram.
Well, I guide, right?
Yeah.
And let's be honest. So yeah, I do that, but not normally. I don't like to backpack. I wouldn't even view it as that. Hey, what's up? What I would honestly say I do is I'm a minimalist. So if I can wrap it up in a shemagh, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I just go up there and here's the thing, man. Like, so many people are blown away that you can just build a shelter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But once they do it, the magic's kind of gone. You know what I'm saying? So like for me, the magic's gone in that front. You just go up and make a shelter. And it's it, right? Yeah. So like for me, it's less. It's more. The experience is more about finding, tracking the game and seeing it. It's more about. Seeing how the trout are developing in that area. It's more about seeing how the area is recovering after a burn. Those are the things that I get out there and really try and do. It's less about what I'm carrying. It's more about what I'm going to be carrying out with me in a way,
That's
a good point.
That's a fantastic quote too.
Yeah, it's really good.
Very insightful.
Anything from the chat before I keep hounding him?
No, hound away.
Well, my next question was, we haven't talked about what's next for Barry.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing currently, and like, what do you want to do, and like, what are you up to now?
Okay, so listen, this is gonna sound bananas, right? But remember when I was talking about time?
Yeah.
Right? So whenever I came back from the show, I had a real tough time going back to the old things I used to do. And my wife goes, well, what do you want to do then? Like, what the hell? Like, you can't just sit on your ass. What do you want to do? Do you want to open a survival school? I'm like, no, I don't want to teach people how to do stuff. And she's like, well, do you want to open? No, I don't want to do that either. And she's like, what do you want to do? I go, dude, I want to act.
Awesome.
I want to be an actor. And she goes, you do realize nothing about your life for the past 42 years has set you up to be a freaking actor. And I'm like, I get it. I know, but that's where my heart is. That's my fire. That's where I'm driven for.
Nice.
And I only do the things that make me happy anymore. And when I search my heart and I have the ability to do that now with absolute clarity, that's where I see myself. I see myself happy, working with incredible writers, directors, other actors.
That's sweet.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's incredible to me. I mean, doesn't that sound like the best way to end a good run? You know what I mean? Like,
I mean,
that's for me.
Yeah, I mean, just doing what makes you happy.
That's pretty cool,
that's
man.
the best existence ever.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is that, like, I never thought I'd make it on a survival show either. So, shit.
You did. Let's get this guy on a Lone Redemption.
Yeah.
The Lone Redemption series. Do you ever like hear from the producers, or like, is there any?
Oh yeah, man.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Ryan. Okay, there's a guy named Ryan. I won't throw his last name out there, but Ryan. he's amazing. He's one of those. I mean, there's a lot of sharks in the industry, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sharks that really enjoy when your blood's in the water, but this dude is not one of them. This guy Ryan, he's incredible. I'm in conversation with him regularly, and what's really fantastic about Ryan and I's relationship is that our relationship is based around the care of the participants in the show.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So he and we work together along with some other people from the show to aid and assist those other people who are coming out of the show after new seasons,
Okay.
helping their reintegration kind of easy. So it's amazing working with him on that front. Now, with that being said, he also knows my heart and my ambition and my desire. He also knows me at a level that most people never will, because he saw all my footage.
Okay.
He saw me at my raw. He saw me confessing truths that I trusted the show with, and they absolutely honored. So he knows my heart. So yes, and then of course, I mean, like, there are other people. I don't want to. Here's the thing: if I mention them and they're like, dude, I'm really not sure I'm even going to work with you. There are people who have reached out. Kurt Angle, who is an incredible. You guys know,
Yeah,
amazing Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Olympic gold.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like I heard. I know that name. Yeah.
Kurt Angle, man, he and his incredible wife Giovanna, they reached out to me after viewing me on the show and said, "Hey, look, we're going to put you in contact with my manager, who is part of Greening Productions and so, like, all of these things kind of trickle off of what's happening." But it's exciting because it feels like, because it's working with such ease and it's working with such enthusiasm from others who are in the industry, it seems like it's doable, it's achievable.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of exciting too, man.
Dude, that's awesome,
Absolutely.
man. That's awesome.
I didn't mean to plug myself.
No, I know you're actually getting to the point in the show where I'm like, Barry, how can we plug you?
Yeah.
Like, we'll put your Instagram down, but like, how just follow you on Instagram? Like, what's the best way people can see about you? Like, what do you want to plug?
But listen, okay, so follow my public pages. I'm Barry Karcher on Instagram. I'm Barry Karcher on Facebook. I'm not like a guy who's posting a lot of like survival stuff. I'm not going to teach you to rub sticks together and make there's enough of that going on. What I'm trying to do is I bring comedy. I like bringing humor. I like bringing my ideas as far as skits and that sort of thing to the limelight. So you're going to get a lot of that kind of stuff. And you're going to get a look into my family life, which I think is something a lot of folks forget. I am just a normal dude who was put in an extraordinarily unique situation.
Yeah.
That's all it really was, But it was a beautiful thing to explore myself to such depths while I was out there, that it's something that I can see myself doing with characters in people's stories, and portraying that character, exploring it to certain depths and being able to then bring that out. I'm excited for that opportunity.
That's a really cool way to put it. Yeah, that's a really cool way to put it.
Oh, you have no idea the self-evolution that was achieved through me exploring myself. I could only imagine what it would be like to step into a character.
Yeah.
See what that has to offer. Man, it's just exciting, man.
That's awesome. We're going to put links to all Barry's stuff down in the description of this YouTube channel, as well as the podcast. Barry, this was so much fun to talk to you, man.
You're our first. You're our first like big deal celebrity.
Yeah, you're like the first person we'll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even view my wife. My wife all the time tells me I see it that way. I'm like, really? Thank you guys.
No, thank you.
How to make a man feel special.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us,
especially on a Friday night. Yeah,
we're excited to see where you go. Everybody listening and watching, please check Barry out.
Yeah.
I think that's going to wrap it up for us.
Yeah. Watch Alone.
Alone season 6 is on Netflix, by the way, if you haven't seen it. And then the rest of the seasons are on Hulu. Check it out. Check Barry out. Dude, this was so much fun.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for talking to us, man.
Okay, I had a blast.
All right, man.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, dude. We will see you later. Yeah. Everybody else, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Barry.
All right,
really appreciate it, sir.
See ya.